It was 1959 in Bad Nauheim, Germany. The king of rock and roll, serving his country as a regular soldier, walked into a party and saw her a stunning 14-year-old with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. Priscilla Beaulieu. In that moment, Elvis Presley's world shifted forever. What began as an impossible romance between a global superstar and a teenager would become one of the most scrutinized love stories in entertainment history. This is the true story behind the song that became their anthem, Can't Help Falling in Love. The autumn air in Bad Nauheim carried the scent of change when Elvis Aaron Presley first laid eyes on Priscilla Beaulieu at a house party on September 13, 1959. He was 24, already a global phenomenon who had taken the world by storm with Heartbreak Hotel and Hound Dog. She was just 14, the daughter of Air Force Captain Joseph Paul Beaulieu, living in Germany while her stepfather was stationed there. Elvis had been drafted into the U.S. Army in 1958, much to his manager Colonel Parker's dismay. But military service in Germany offered something Elvis had never experienced: normalcy. Away from the screaming fans and relentless media attention, he could almost pretend to be a regular young man. Almost, when Cary Grant, a fellow serviceman, mentioned there was a beautiful young American girl he wanted Elvis to meet. The singer was initially hesitant. He'd grown tired of the endless parade of women who threw themselves at him, seeking fame by association. But something about Cary's description intrigued him. The moment Elvis walked into that living room and saw Priscilla sitting demurely on the couch, wearing a navy and white sailor dress, time seemed to stop. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but there was something more in innocence and genuineness that cut through his usual cynicism about people's motives. When she spoke, her voice was soft but confident. She wasn't trying to impress him or throw herself at him like so many others. "So you're the famous Elvis Presley," she said with a slight smile that would haunt his dreams. For the first time in years, Elvis found himself nervous around a woman. He sat down at the piano and began playing, his fingers dancing across the keys as he sang softly, his eyes never leaving hers. The room full of people seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them in their own private world. That night, Elvis drove Priscilla home to her family's residence, and they talked for hours in his car. She told him about her life as a military brat, moving from base to base, never quite belonging anywhere. He shared his own feelings of isolation, how fame had created an invisible barrier between him and the rest of the world. In Priscilla, he found someone who saw past the legend to the lonely young man beneath. When Elvis completed his military service and returned to Memphis in 1960, leaving Priscilla behind in Germany felt like tearing his heart in half. They had spent precious months together, carefully chaperoned dates that felt like stolen moments from a fairy tale. But the harsh reality of their situation couldn't be ignored. She was still a minor. He was one of the most famous men in the world, and an ocean would soon separate them. The letters began immediately. Elvis would pour his heart out on paper, writing to Priscilla about his longing to see her again, his struggles with the pressures of fame, and his dreams of a future together. Her letters back were equally passionate, filled with the innocent yet profound emotions of first love. She wrote about school, her friends, but always ended with how much she missed him and counted the days until they could be together again. Elvis's return to the entertainment world was triumphant but hollow. He recorded, "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" in April 1960, and everyone who heard him sing it could feel the genuine ache in his voice. The song became a massive hit, but for Elvis, it was more than entertainment. It was a direct line to his heart, a musical letter to the girl he'd left behind in Germany. Phone calls became their lifeline. Despite the astronomical cost and time difference, Elvis would call Priscilla at all hours, sometimes just to hear her voice before he could sleep. These conversations were their private sanctuary, a place where they could be completely honest about their feelings without the world watching. And judging the pressure from both sides was immense. Priscilla's parents were understandably concerned about their young daughter's involvement with such a controversial figure. Colonel Parker worried that news of Elvis's relationship with a minor could destroy his career. Friends and family members offered opinions and advice, but none of it mattered to the two young people desperately in love. Elvis began making plans to bring Priscilla to America, but it would require careful navigation of both legal and public relations minefields. He knew that one wrong move could not only end their relationship, but potentially destroy both their lives. Yet the alternative, giving up on the love that had transformed him, was unthinkable. In March 1961, Elvis walked into radio recorders in Hollywood to begin work on the soundtrack for Blue Hawaii. Among the songs selected was Can't Help Falling in Love, written by Hugo Peretti, Luigi Creatore, and George David Weiss. Based on the 18th century French melody, Plaisir d'amour, the song's lyrics seemed to speak directly to Elvis's situation with Priscilla. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you, he sang, and everyone in the studio could hear something different in his voice. This wasn't just another recording session. This was Elvis pouring his soul into a song that perfectly captured his feelings for the girl who had captured his heart in Germany. The melody was simple yet haunting, the lyrics honest and vulnerable. As Elvis recorded take after take, perfecting every nuance, he was thinking of Priscilla thousands of miles away. The song became his musical confession, his way of telling the world and her that despite all the obstacles, all the wise advice to stay away, he couldn't help falling in love. Meanwhile, Priscilla was finishing her senior year of high school in Germany, living for Elvis's letters and phone calls. When she finally heard Can't Help Falling in Love on the radio, she knew immediately that he had been thinking of her when he sang it. The song became their secret code, their musical love letter that the whole world could hear, but only they truly understood. The success of both the song and the movie gave Elvis the leverage he needed to make his next move. In 1963, he convinced Priscilla's parents to let her come to America to finish her education. The official story was that she would live with Elvis's father Vernon and stepmother Dee, attending a Catholic school in Memphis. The reality was more complicated. She would be living at Graceland, trying to navigate the complex world of being Elvis Presley's secret girlfriend. The day Priscilla stepped off the plane at Memphis International Airport, Elvis was there waiting, his heart pounding with the same intensity he'd felt that first night in Germany. As they embraced, he whispered the words he'd sung hundreds of times. I can't help falling in love with you. This time, though it wasn't a performance, it was a promise. Living at Graceland was like existing in a beautiful prison for Priscilla. She was finally with the man she loved, but their relationship had to remain a carefully guarded secret. Elvis's world was unlike anything she had experienced, a constant parade of music industry figures, movie executives, and hangers-on who all wanted something from the king. Through it all, she tried to maintain her own identity while adapting to a lifestyle that was extraordinary in every sense. Elvis was protective of Priscilla to an almost obsessive degree. He controlled what she wore, how she styled her hair, even which friends she could see. To outsiders, it might have seemed controlling, but to Elvis, it was love. He was terrified that the corrupting influences of his world would change the innocent, genuine girl he had fallen for in Germany. He wanted to preserve what he saw as her perfection, even as the irony escaped him that he was changing her in the process. The pressures of keeping their relationship secret took a toll on both of them. Priscilla couldn't date anyone else, or even admit to having a boyfriend when classmates asked. Elvis, meanwhile, was forced to maintain the image of an eligible bachelor, even as his heart belonged completely to the young woman living in his home. The strain was evident to those closest to them, but they persevered, sustained by their deep love and the belief that eventually they could be open about their relationship. In 1967, after years of secret courtship, Elvis finally proposed to Priscilla in their bedroom at Graceland. He had been carrying the ring for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. When it came, it was simple and private, just the two of them, away from the cameras and crowds. She said yes without hesitation, and they began planning a wedding that would finally allow them to openly declare their love. Their wedding, on May 1st, 1967, at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas, was both intimate and heavily publicized. As they exchanged vows, Elvis sang softly to his bride, and those who were there swore they could hear echoes of "Can't Help Falling in Love" in his voice. The song that had been their secret anthem was now their wedding song, marking the moment when their forbidden love finally became a celebrated union. The reception was small but joyful, and as Elvis and Priscilla danced their first dance as husband and wife, the journey from that first meeting in Germany to this moment seemed like a miracle. They had overcome age differences, distance, public scrutiny, and countless obstacles, because their love truly was the kind you can't help falling into, complete, consuming, and undeniable. The love story of Elvis and Priscilla Presley proves that sometimes the most powerful songs come from the most genuine emotions. "Can't Help Falling in Love" wasn't just a hit record. It was the soundtrack to one of the most famous romances of the 20th century. Their story reminds us that true love often defies logic, overcomes obstacles, and creates its own beautiful melody. Want to discover more untold stories behind your favorite songs? Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to never miss the fascinating true stories behind the music that shaped our world.